This week at the Texas Capitol, questions arose about whether the second part of what's being known as the Texas Two-Step will actually happen this session. Governor Greg Abbott already signed the first part of that package into law, investing $1 billion of taxpayer money into offering private school subsidies to families.
However, it's unclear when the Texas Senate will take up the other piece of this that passed the House with near unanimous support, and that's the bill to pump nearly $7 billion more into public education here in the state. With less than a month left in the session, let's talk more about this with two former state lawmakers. Dennis Bonnen is a former House Speaker who represented Southeast Texas, while Mark Strama previously served as a Democratic representative here in the Austin area. Dennis and Mark, welcome back. Nice to see you both.
Thank you.
All right, so later this week is a pretty big deadline for the legislature there. We'll circle back to the public education funding in just a moment, but I want to highlight this timeline for us. Thursday and Friday, as you were noting, will mark the bill deadline in the House. So remind people about what that actually means for legislation that lawmakers would like to pass.
It's probably the busiest, hardest, most difficult week of the session because it is the week for the House as you laid out. Thursday midnight is the deadline to pass a House bill on second reading, and then of course midnight Friday is the deadline to pass that same bill on third reading. And so it's a 2-day process of every bill. So this week, last night they were on the floor until 10:45 p.m. From 10 a.m. all the way through. They'll go as late as that tonight again, I'm sure. They will tomorrow, and then they'll go to at least midnight. And so it is the most difficult week because tensions are high, people are tired, they're frustrated, their bills are dying, their bills are on the calendar, and they're hoping they'll get to them. They don't know if they will. So it's a tense week, and it's a hard week.
So Mark, is there much hope for some of these legislative pieces that are floating out there still that haven't passed the House just yet?
I mean, the way I've heard some of the numbers, and it's that Thursday midnight deadline that matters. Anything that passes second reading on Thursday midnight will get its third reading passage on Friday. I've heard numbers that say if you're not already set on the calendar, you're not going to make it, and a lot of the bills on the calendar, you're not going to make it. Which bills make the cut are going to be a function of how long the debate on each bill is, and there's going to be a point at which people are looking toward the second half of the calendar and saying, maybe we should debate the first half of the calendar longer so that we never get to some of these bills on the second half of the calendar.
So it's almost reverse strategy there.
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of strategy right now about how long to extend the debate on a relatively non-controversial bill just because every 10 minutes of debate kills a bill working from the bottom of the calendar up. And how late the speaker decides to work them each night, when they decide to adjourn each night determines how many bills are going to pass and how many aren't. So bills that are not on the calendar yet are dead. Bills that are on the second half of the calendar are on life support. And and look, to your point about moods and tempers, I mean, this has been a hard week for Democrats. They've watched a lot of bills pass that they don't like at all. And at some point I would expect that to start showing up in extended debate that just starts wrecking the calendar.
Yeah, and that's one of the things the speaker has to manage is what time are they, I mean, look, anyone who criticizes someone showing up at 10 a.m. and stopping at 10:45 p.m. is a bit crazy. But it is managing that mood, that attitude, and that perspective from both sides, by the way, because the Republicans are also saying, I want to get to that bill, and the Democrats saying, I don't think I want you there. And there are Democrats saying, I want to get to that bill, I want that bill, and the Republicans saying, no, I don't want you to get to that bill. So it actually cross-pollinates in all kinds of directions.
It does. And the last thing about this is, I mean, all the priority bills for the leadership are not at risk from any of this. Even if they were, this deadline this Thursday is only for House bills to go to the Senate. Senate bills in the House have another, I don't know, 10 days or so.
And to that point, yes, correct. And to that point, the Calendars Committee declares a major state bill, so that's the first bill on the calendar of each day. So you may not be on the calendar yet, but if you're a major state bill on Thursday, you're going to pass.
You brought up the priorities of the governor or lieutenant governor. We want to talk to you guys about bail reform. It's one of the big priority items that thus far we've just not focused on quite a lot. There's been so much focus on some of the education and funding. Recently the governor expressed doubts about getting enough support for the bail reform changes. What do you guys have to say? Any context for our audience?
Sure.
And do you think that will make it across the finish line?
I do. The House committee voted the Senate bill on bail reform out yesterday late evening, And I think that they're going to pass the bill in the House. And it's one of the things that, you want to talk about school finance in a second here. It's one of the misnomers, and it's sort of the game that gets played. It's the game behind the game. Well, I don't know if they're going to do it. Well, the Senate has plenty of time to pass House Bill 2. The House has plenty of time to pass the Senate bill on bail reform. And when I say plenty, legislatively speaking. So the reality of it is that bill, and think about that for a second. So the House voted the Senate bill out last evening, but people are saying, I don't know if they're going to do it. The Senate hadn't even heard the House bill on school finance. They're going to do that too, though. So my point is to say they're not going to do that is silly. Also, don't forget on bail reform, you need 100 votes. And so this is where the people who were beating the drum rather ridiculously about no Democrat chairs in the Texas House. So, okay, what did you accomplish? And when you need 12 Democrats to join you on a major priority of the governor, maybe having a little bit of oxygen to breathe as the chair in the chamber might have incentivized you to be more willing to work on that issue.
Dennis just mentioned House Bill 2 hasn't had a vote yet in the Senate. That's the big school finance package that funds, I think, about $8 billion of new money for public ed. And he's right. If it's a priority, the leadership has the ability to get it done, and these are clearly leadership priorities. The bills that are going to die on the calendar are maybe priorities to individual members. They may have the votes to pass, but they may not make it to the floor. This happens every session. The priority legislation is not at risk from the calendar right now. On bail reform, it is going to take 100 votes. That isn't a slam dunk. And I think that there is a legitimate concern among some Democrats about due process rights under that legislation. I think they ought to hash that out in the House, and they ought to take the time they need to get that right.
And I think that's what they did, and that's why it came out of committee last night. The hope was it'd come out last week, but they waited to make sure that it's a bill that you can get 100 votes on the House floor. And whether people like it or not, you got to be collaborative, and you got to be respectful of folks to get that done.
I guess since we're talking so much about the pace and when things happen, you also have to know, because leadership controls the calendar, they sometimes want things to come up later rather than sooner because they can hold that as leverage. And so the fact that the Senate hasn't moved yet on an $8 billion school funding package, even after the priority of vouchers has already been signed by the governor, is a signal that may be something that is held as as sort of a negotiating leverage. The earlier, I guess 2 weeks ago, we talked about how Democrats were withholding their support on constitutional amendments that can't pass without Democratic support because they require 100 votes. And that was using leverage on something unrelated to the issue they were mad about. They were mad about vouchers. They were therefore holding constitutional amendments hostage. This is it is really three-dimensional chess in a lot of these regards. So it's not just calendars, it's about the nature of the legislation, and sometimes exercising leverage over things unrelated to the thing you're actually trying to get done.
Quick funny note.
Okay.
So this week what happens now too is members walk up to each other and go, is he chubbing?
Yeah.
Or has he got a real question about the bill?
Explain what that is, because I've seen that floating out on social media. Other people might have seen that.
So
Give us
chubbing
some
is,
context.
and Mark spoke to it a minute ago, chubbing is literally, it can be Democrats, it can be Republicans, and literally it's bizarre. It happens by both in the same day, which makes no sense. But it's literally asking questions, speaking against bills, eating your 10 minutes, eating the 20-minute layout, doing your 10 minutes, to Mark's point, make sure you don't get to a bill further down on the calendar. So it makes it, I should say it's funny, but it is, during the week where you're really going, okay, is Avery just doing this to slow us down, or is she really concerned about this bill?
Trying to find the motivation.
Yes, you're trying to figure out
Sometimes you don't know.
what's going, because
and sometimes they don't want you to know. Sometimes it's deliberately opaque. I used to care about things and go up and argue it, and people didn't think I was serious. They were like, why would you care about that? You're just killing time.
Correct. and it matters because you might go up to Avery and say, hey, don't do that right now. Like people are getting angry, the temperature is getting up, we need to keep it down. Appreciate you're wanting to shove a little bit, don't. But Avery may say, no, I'm like Mark.
I'm sincere.
This is a weird
People
piece
don't
of
know
policy
when
I
they're
want to
sincere.
talk about.
Is there ever a risk that some of these, as you said, three-dimensional chess games could put some of the priority, or maybe not the main priority, but some of the big bills we've discussed at risk?
Oh, sure. I mean, that's the whole point. And I'm
Yeah,
not being
that's
funny.
what the gamesmanship
That's what the
is about.
gamesmanship is, and it's brinkmanship. It's like, do I go too far and blow this thing up incidentally? But look, at the end
but
of the
the
day,
leadership
you can
holds the
control a lot
leverage.
of that. Yeah,
Right. I
you
mean,
can control a lot, but it can go too far. And where it can also go too far is the personalities and the attitudes get too angry and they say, well, you know what? I'm just not doing it.
If you go back 12 years to your question, Avery, 12 years ago on Sine Die, the last day of session, Wendy Davis saw an opportunity to speak for 12 hours, as a senator is entitled to do, on a bill that affected abortion rights, and she killed the bill on the last day of session that way. Seemed like a great exercise of that senatorial privilege to speak for as long as you can hold the floor. But of course, the governor, who held even more leverage, called him back in special session the next day, and they passed the legislation a few weeks later.
Right.
But no disrespect to Wendy Davis. She made herself a big name in Texas and big name to Democrats in Texas. You could make an argument, and this will sound harsh, that all she did was get people further run over on the policy she supposedly was crusading over. But she looked great and she raised her profile, but yet the issue was a disaster for her.
So much more to discuss. We'll have to wrap it up there. But Dennis and Mark, as always, thank you so much for being with us. And we look forward to speaking with you next week.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, we're going to send you to break and we'll be back after this.